Cyber Hub bunker and studio. You're listening to the CISO Talk podcast. No sales, no bullshit, just straight talk. Straight talk. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
All right, everyone, we are live. It's Friday, kind of spontaneous. I decided to jump on here and do an AMA because I've been getting a ton of questions kind of privately. And I was like, well, it's Friday. My 11 o'clock freed up. And y'all know how much I love Fridays if you don't. And it's typically a day I do Tech Corner. So I was like, you know what? We'll do an AMA and then I'll post this on the podcast, so you can comment, ask any questions. We're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, through the Cyber Hub podcast or my personal page on LinkedIn, James J. Azar. You can follow me there for a lot more content. So here's the deal. Let's kind of get going on this morning. I've got a ton of questions that came through, and I want to answer several of them here while we kind of get warmed up. But one of them has been kind of around the conversation of breaking into cyber, and we're going to have people joining on and jumping on the AMA here as well. So don't feel out of place, and just ask anything. Spencer, thank you, man. I love you for loving the podcast. Thanks so much. So here's one of the questions I get. A lot of people, and kind of in talking to CISOs, a lot of people always ask, like, what does it take to break in? And I do CISO Thursdays with Renee and Chris and Naomi, and we talk a lot about it. But there's one aspect that we always kind of, I don't want to say we skip over, but it's the idea that you got to be ready to hop into cyber and understand the various disciplines, what disciplines you want to go after. I've got a question here, and I want to get to it real quick. Majd, good morning. Been thinking about security and privacy for the past few hours. Ask away, man. Let's discuss it. Absolutely, I think about it constantly, and I think that's a really big challenge for a lot of people around security and privacy, which is what's the barrier. Does security equal privacy? Does privacy equal security? It's a really important discussion to be had, because a lot of people think that privacy equals security, or that security equals privacy, and that's not always the case. That's really not always the case. There's a few different things that kind of differentiate privacy from security. One, privacy is your privacy. It's what you do. And you're kind of looking for some level of regulatory protections to defend your privacy. That's why I posted a question earlier this week on what's your favorite browser. And you know what? I got to share these results with you, because I think if you're into security and privacy, you will laugh from this one. Give me just a moment. I want to pull up the results. If you haven't seen these, you're going to want to see this. I may put the post up here and share the results with you here in just a second. Give me just a moment. So for all of those watching, good morning. Love it. Here we go. I want to put up this survey I did this week. Here we go. So let me share this on screen, guys. Give me just a sec here. Let me share this right here on the screen. You guys can see it. There we go. Bam, right there. Here it is. So I asked people, I'll zoom in on this just a little bit so you guys can see it. I made I think your favorite browser preference. And when we talk about privacy, Brave is by far probably the browser that gives you the most options for privacy. But 63% of the 1,179 people who voted with 5 days left use Chrome. So it's not the value of data. It's the fact that we don't even know how different browsers are access to the internet. We don't understand how much Chrome spies on everything we do. Chrome monitors every single thing you do. Now, it's the most popular browser, and most people get into that. But Chrome, 63% of people who answered this prefer Chrome. Now, there's a bunch of comments here, and I won't, a lot of people here, we'll take a look at why is an Internet Explorer an option, Internet Explorer and so forth. People really, Vivaldi, by the way, Vivaldi is really, really cool. It's not on the list. LinkedIn only gives me 4 options on a survey. So LinkedIn is by default, when I have Jeff on the podcast, this is over at LinkedIn, I'll be sure to get him to address the fact that we need more of these. Not a lot of people brought up Opera. Eric Williams brings up Opera. Yeah, Eric, I don't know where Opera is. Mush says these results make total sense. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think like 63% of people, and a lot of my network is security people. A lot of my network is security people and people who advocate for privacy, and yet they're using Google Chrome. I mean, I'm on Brave predominantly. I use Safari, and the browser that LinkedIn's open on right now is Safari, just for everything. But when I do the practitioner brief, I use Brave. So Kevin Peterson, hey, good morning, Kevin. How's it going, buddy? By the way, guys, I'm having an espresso. Whatever you're drinking, take a picture, post it. Kevin says he uses Brave for everything Macs and Windows on iOS. DuckDuckGo, privacy browser wins. Yeah, I wish DuckDuckGo actually had a desktop browser. That would have been so awesome. Jenny says, I'm so thankful for your help on breaking into cyber and all the security hacks. Absolutely, Jenny. We're a community. We're bound to help each other. And Majd here brings up a really cool point, which is I think at the heart core of the value of data in today's world sits within privacy and security. Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. Everything sits between that. I mean, here's the thing. 10% use Edge. Microsoft is heavily invested in Edge. And my sample size that maybe 117 people use Edge. 8 people use Safari. Most people don't use Safari. Most people use Chrome on Mac OS as well. Brave, Naomi wrote down here that on Brave, she uses Brave with a VPN, which I think is really, really cool. Firefox, I didn't put Firefox on here. So Michael Morgan, great guy, very, very smart guy. He uses Brave, DuckDuckGo, VPN plus Tor, discrete DNS, Proton Mail, disk encryption, layers, and more layers. Arvin, who is just a brilliant man, talks about Chrome all day for work, Firefox for personal, and so forth. It's crazy. Kevin, if I use Chrome, it's only for Google accounts access. Yeah, that's how Google loops you in. That's how they gather all the data. There's a reason for it. Kevin, you and I have had that over beers plenty of times. It's the convenience that Chrome gives you a head start over the rest. It's only a matter of how much data you and fast you provide it. Yeah, I mean, you can restrict Chrome, but it's very hard to get all of the Chrome features with its restrictions, like really difficult. And Kevin here says, but I also I have almost no footprint on Google. I have an account and 0 bytes of Gmail. And I've got someone joining me. Chris, what's happening?
Howdy, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How about yourself?
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. So I'm as you're joining, I put out this survey, and I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if you even voted on it. To be honest, so many people voted on it, I didn't know where to begin. But I said your browser preference, right? Trigger warning, 1,179 votes thus far. 63% of the people use Chrome. Talk about privacy.
That's why I go with Firefox.
See, I didn't make Firefox an option because to me, Chrome and Edge and Firefox are all the same.
Yeah, but they're not.
So enlighten us.
Well, like Firefox as an organization has shown that they do value our privacy more than Google as an organization. They share a lot of information when you use Chrome back to themselves to help with their analytics and everything like that. Not to mention on a Mac, Chrome is horrible. Their CPU usage is horrible. Their RAM usage is horrible. Even when you're not using Chrome, it still affects your CPU. It runs in the background. And I've noticed on my Mac, like uninstalling Chrome made it like 10% faster. Like I used to use it as a backup browser and have it there just in case. I removed it. I went back to using Safari as my backup browser.
Yeah, but like, so for StreamYard performs best on Chrome. You've got no other choice.
I've been using it on Firefox like right now.
Okay, that's, I'm not a big Firefox guy. I'll have to admit, I'm not a big Mozilla guy. Chromium rules the world, according to Eric Williams. Do you buy it?
I mean, it's very popular, and they have a lot of market share because of their Android platform. And they're a good browser. The problem I feel that is because every single tab session is like its own little process. It just hogs your CPU and it hogs your RAM. And I hate to admit it, but I'm a tab whore. Like right now I have over 30 tabs in one window, and then another window I have maybe 40 tabs in. Because I don't want to close them. I go back to them eventually, but I like to keep them up. If I do that in Chrome, it just kills me.
Yeah, I don't know about that. So is Firefox, if Firefox is the same as Chrome in terms of privacy, I think, like, I mean, Chris here is setting the record straight, so I'm not going to argue with Chris over that. The guy's an adjunct professor. He teaches the next generation of cybersecurity people all kinds of stuff. But to me, I put Edge, Chrome, Firefox in the same category of kind of like mainstream, little privacy, more data collection browsers. And I put Safari in there too, by the way. Like, don't let me leave out Safari.
I mean, Chrome and Edge are pretty much the same thing, because now Edge is a Chromium browser. Bravo's a Chromium browser.
Right.
You have a lot of companies that took Chrome and slashed it down to remove some of the sharing features back to Google and made it more secure.
Well, not more secure, more private.
More private, yeah.
Let's do that distinction, because one of the
Tor browser is more private, and it's Chromium based.
So to me, Tor has zero privacy. And I know people will argue with me about this one, but any tool that the NSA develops that then they release to the general public and say is private seems like an oxymoron. And I love my friends over at the NSA, right? Don't get me wrong. Plenty of friends I have at the National Security Agency, and I love them all. I love you guys. Seriously, I'm saying it live. I love you, NSA. But at the same time, when the NSA releases a tool and they say, hey, everyone, use it. It's free and it's secure. I'm like, that's like James Bond all of a sudden drinking a beer instead of a martini.
I hear you, but even Signal was developed by them.
Part of Signal was developed by them.
Yeah.
But then the founder of WhatsApp took it over, made it a nonprofit, and really kept Signal going on the original WhatsApp mission, which was, kind of end-to-end encryption, the BBM replacement.
But do you think that Tor is the same as it was when the CIA, let's be honest about it, it's not NSA, it's the CIA that created Tor. And the main reason that the CIA created Tor was so that they could contact their assets in other countries, and so that the intelligence agencies in those countries can't see the communication back and forth between the CIA and their assets. That was the initial reason for Tor. And ever since it's evolved, you have the NSA that wants to listen and the CIA that doesn't want them to listen, because they're separate agencies within the government.
Right.
So I think since it's evolved, you don't have as many of those plugins because it's now open source. The community sees it. I don't think it has the hooks in that you think.
See, I disagree with you here. I think the release of it was the fact that they saw other people pick up on it. So the more users, the harder it is to discern who's the CIA agent communicating back to who's the, run-of-the-mill wannabe hacker, wannabe criminal. I'm sorry, let me fix that. Run-of-the-mill wannabe criminal is that, Brave is also Chromium. That's you said that. Let's look at some comments here. Very educational. I need to stop using Chrome immediately as I'm a security analyst intern. Yes, immediately.
I mean, so back to Tor though. The CIA and let's say, if you want to say the NSA, they might be piggybacking off of the larger community network, but I don't think they have the hooks into it like you think they do.
They may not. They may not.
They might know ways to forensically look at the traffic and to backtrack and trace back via logs and things like that. But I don't think they have a hook into the actual communication itself between the nodes.
No, I agree with that. Eric's laughing. Let's see here. So then what's the best to use for overall purposes? I like Bravo. I mean, I like Brave. I'm sorry. I love Brave. Brave is really a great performing browser for me. I mean, I use Brave on almost everything. And yeah, I'm a tab whore like you are. And with Brave, I don't have a lot of issues. I'm just saying.
I've never checked Brave out.
I'm a bit concerned about Firefox because of some of the comments that Mozilla leadership has made over the last year or so about all kinds of different things. So I'm a bit more concerned about that. Let's see here. Daniel Thorsten said, Chrome is uninstalled. We are winning the battle against Google one uninstall at a time. One uninstall at a time. So Daniel T. LOL from Steven. And let's see. So Eric Williams says, correct, exit nodes are now obfuscation due to the usage level of Tor. Yeah, it's harder to monitor that kind of stuff. But, I prefer two things. One, if you're not using a VPN, you should always use a VPN. But you should ensure that if you're smart enough, or if you want to invest some time, get a VPN that you can put on your home router, because that's the best thing to do over your devices.
There's some pros and cons to that. So especially when you're remote, there's reasons to use VPN. So for example, if you're in another country, you can use a VPN that has an exit node in another country to access their content. That's one usage of a VPN. If you're looking for preventing people from looking at your traffic and you want to send it all through the node at your home router, sending the traffic back is a perfect example, but you want to make sure that you have enough bandwidth at home to handle that traffic, especially if you're talking about latency that goes over a cellular network. A lot of people forget that when they put a VPN on their cell phone and they have low connections because they have low coverage areas, or they don't have a lot of bars, that it's going to affect the entire performance of the device. And that's a frustration with some consumers when they put a VPN on their phone, is you're like, why is my internet so slow? Well, because now all your traffic has to go back out of this secure tunnel and land back somewhere, and then come back through that secure tunnel back to you. So there's pros and cons to having the VPN on there. I personally, if I'm going to jump on an unsecure Wi-Fi, I use VPN. If I'm just on a cellular network, I don't use a VPN in that case, unless I'm going to a hacker conference, and then that's a totally.
Well, if you go to Black Hat, you don't take your phone, right? Like I love people who, like, you bring a burner and just take a taxi and pay the taxi cash. You don't need to order an Uber in Vegas. You can literally walk from the airport to your hotel depending on how close you live, right? Just or order a driver ahead of time. Just don't take your phone or your actual laptop to Black Hat. Like, just don't do it. Listen, I use VPN everywhere I go, Chris, even on cellular networks most of the time, simply because we know that, for example, Apple blocks your MAC address from actually being seen by app developers. So if you're using an app, they can't really attribute it to your device, but We've seen that TikTok was able to bypass some of that. We've seen some apps that were able to get into the MAC address by simply manipulating something within the app. So I use a VPN everywhere I go. Majd says, nice, I'll make sure to download and use Brave. Brave is the best. Kevin here has something very interesting to say, where Brave crushes Firefox's ad tracker and fingerprint blocking. Kevin's huge when it comes to privacy.
And I agree with his next comment that if you do use Firefox, use add-ons like ad blockers and use DuckDuckGo. And DuckDuckGo is my main search engine, and I have ad blockers on. Yes, it is a bunch of plugins that you have to load, but yeah, I should check out Brave myself.
Yeah, Brave's pretty cool. Kevin Peterson says all stuff that Brave has implemented and then some. Yeah, I mean, Chris, that's kind of a very, very funny conversation, right? Because when you think of like Brave in general, or you think of browsers as kind of an access to the internet. So for those watching or listening, I learned something very interesting. I did a podcast a while ago with Anne from KnowBe4. She runs KnowBe4 Africa. And we were talking about devices. Like, so a lot of the cell phones in the continent of Africa come from China, and they're secondhand or third-hand used devices. So they don't get an iPhone 11 there, right? They're probably using an old Samsung Galaxy or whatever phones. You know, I don't know anything but iPhones. So whatever other devices out there, you know, whatever Samsung model it is, that's what they use. And they come pre-installed with apps, but they don't learn about browsers there. So the way they're told to get access to the internet is through Facebook or Twitter.
Yep.
So they don't even understand. We have to understand the browser market is shrinking because most people think that the internet is a social media network and not the ability to go and search and discern information.
But you also have people that they get their mobile devices through programs like Facebook, where you sign up for Facebook Lite and they give you a phone and they give you that internet connection in exchange for funneling you through that connection.
Yeah. I mean, welcome to the 2021 dilemma, where in parts of Africa and in parts of India and Pakistan and former USSR, where the ability to afford a device or the ability to be able to discern information is non-existent for most people because they've never used a laptop, right? So we in the States, we have a benefit. I'd say states in Western Europe, right? We have a benefit. Here's our benefit, is we went through the technology revolution in all phases. Everyone here can recall starting on a desktop that sat at home with the large 3.5 millimeter floppy disk that you had to blow on and put in to run a program on your computer.
6-inch.
Yeah.
6-inch floppy.
Yeah, the 6-inch floppies. That's right, man. And then it went to 3.5, and that was like a revolution, and so forth and so forth and so forth. And we probably, if we went through our garages, right, or went through our storage units, would probably find like old floppy disks, like the cases you'd put next to your computer so you can run Word or you can run, all kinds of stuff. And we matured into smartphones, but because we started on traditional computers, we understood what Internet Explorer is, or Mozilla Firefox, or Netscape. You guys remember Netscape? Netscape on Mac. I remember in my school library when I was in high school, we had the colorful Macs, the old first Macs, and with Netscape. And you're like, isn't a book easier than this thing? Like, I just want to go grab a book. I don't want to use this thing, right? Like, it was just at the beginning of all this stuff. And in these other parts of the world, they don't get that. They don't go from computer, laptop, smart device, so forth. They're going nothing, smart device.
Cell phone. Yep. Yeah. And a lot of countries in Africa, they went from zero cell phone coverage to having like 3G, 4G coverage. And in the areas where they don't have that 4G coverage, they're using text messages and SMS transactions to send and receive money rather than using actual banking applications. Because they didn't have browsers on their non-smartphones, so they use SMS as a way to transact, and that was how they traded money. Their cell phone kept a record of how much credit they have, and on the SIM card, and then they would SMS funds back and forth to each other, and that's how they would do transactions.
Well, that's still popular in parts of the Middle East. I remember in 2014, I was in a Middle Eastern country, not to be named for the sake of today's show, and we're working on a fintech project there, and we ordered something from kind of like their version of Amazon at the time called souk.com. Now it's Amazon. Amazon actually acquired the company. And the delivery driver showed up and he goes, "How do you want to pay for this?" And I was like, "Credit card." And he goes, "No, we'll either take check or you can wire us the money right now on your phone from your bank account to our bank account, but we don't take credit. So you either got to hand them cash." And I was like, wow, that's crazy. And in some cases, what we noticed is like expats to exchange money. So I'd go to the local change in the country as an expat, and I'd say, I want to give someone in let's say in India, as an example, in Bangalore, I want to send them $300. There's no real Western Union transaction done. They have their own system. This guy picks up the phone, calls the change that he's connected with in Bangalore, India. He says, "Give this person 300 at this exchange rate." And that's how they settle back and forth. Like, it's unbelievable, the kind of stuff which you talk about. Floppy disks that were actually floppy. Yes. Well done. Netscape Explorer. Yes.
It's like a lot of people used to think AOL was the internet, because that's all that they had, that AOL CD that they installed, and they had that framework where they had their mail, they had their IM, they had everything in their little AOL software, and they were like, that's the internet. They didn't know any better, and unfortunately some people still think that's the internet.
Yeah, they do. Kevin here has a really cool advice. I think this is really cool advice, by the way. I block all Google, Amazon, Facebook, and similar trackers on our home firewall as well. Just block the domains of google-analytics.com, connect.facebook.net, and dozens more. That way apps and other devices on the networks that might make calls out are dropped.
But the only thing that I would say there is, yes, if you're very privacy conscious, that's a way to do it. I would recommend, if you're putting in such a solution, that you do it step by step. Maybe start with using like Pi-hole, and you could put that on a Raspberry Pi, or you can even put that on a free Amazon service where you can use one of the nano virtual machines that they have, and it's pretty much free. You have a Pi-hole in the cloud, and you can use that to redirect all your DNS requests. But it will break some of your convenience features. So if you're someone that uses IoT devices, you'll find that you'll see call outs to random websites, and you're like, what's this about? And then you block it, and then your IoT device doesn't work anymore. So do things slowly, figure out what you're going to break once you start blocking sites, and then you can go from there.
Yeah. Eric is bringing back good times, man. 5.25 inch single density, then to double density floppy, then 3.5 inch double density, then zip disks. Oh, yep. Man, that is good times. This is Medina, and she talks about the Hawala system. Hawala in Arabic means transfer. Really, really cool. Blockchain without the infotech aspect. Yeah. I mean, literally it's all on paper and pen. Like, you know, I think it's still like that in some places of the world today, especially with what I like to call like modern slavery that exists today, where, you know, you're kind of taken from the country you're from, taken to another country, and you're paid below minimum wage, and you live below acceptable livable conditions, and you can't afford to pay with the Western Union 8% transfer fee. And then the other side has to pay a pickup fee. They don't get the money for free as well. You know, there's a real need for transforming that system. Jose says Tamper Monkey also lets you choose which scripts you allow to run on your browser. That's pretty cool. Kevin says try Pi-hole, not best in my environment. I use DNS over HTTPS and other DNS hacks. But yeah, Pi-hole is a gem for those who can rock it. Again, I think we talk. This whole conversation started from the idea of security over privacy, right? Because kind of Mesh brought it up before he bailed on us a minute ago or so. We'll say bye to him now because he's not watching anymore. So, but he kind of brought up the idea of security over privacy, which kind of brought me to, I was surprised when I put up my survey, Chris, that 63% of people use Chrome. And these are the same. And a lot of the people, when I was looking at the list, I'm like, I follow these people and they're all talking about privacy. Like I can go back and point out to privacy posts about, social media trackers and cookies and, like privacy isn't security and security has to, you've got to understand your privacy rights and so forth. And 63%
they go on Facebook at night and say everything, like have all these conversations. They have Facebook app running on their phone and they don't realize what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, one thing so I've been off of Twitter now for a month and I've deleted WhatsApp a month ago. So I'm 30 days down and I'm loving life. Like I hated life before when I had Twitter. Like I still have Twitter for CyberHub podcast, but it's all automatic posts. I don't do anything else. MailChimp posts everything out for me. I don't go on Twitter anymore. And I'm loving life.
When I had Facebook, I used to just doom scroll and hated it. I deleted my personal Facebook account. Don't use it anymore. And I felt so much better. I still use Twitter every once in a while. It's a good place in the InfoSec community to figure out what's happening. For example, on Twitter, the hack that happened last Friday, even on Friday, a security researcher already mentioned that TeamViewer was the way in before all the news coverage was published. It was just a single tweet. It was TeamViewer.
Yeah, but it was also on Reddit. I saw it on Reddit as well. I saw it on Reddit as well. Eric fixes himself. He goes, it's Netscape Navigator, not Explorer. Yeah, it was Navigator. You're right. It wasn't Navigator. It's a really
compass.
Yeah, it had. Well, that's Safari nowadays, right? Safari's got a compass. I feel like Safari kind of stole off of Netscape. They really didn't have to go far to innovate that one. But no, I use Reddit more now. I enjoy Reddit a little bit better. I think it's a bit more, it's not as doomsday-ish.
Really? Depends on the Reddits that you go to.
Yeah, I don't go to I don't go to R conspiracy. Right? Like I just don't do that. And I don't go to I don't follow social issues on Reddit. I stick to cybersecurity, CISO, on Reddit, my handle is CISO Talk. So I stay there. I stay in cybersecurity, and that's it on Reddit. And I enjoy it more than Twitter because at least I don't see I can respect the person and I can have a conversation around cybersecurity, which is what I'm looking to do. If I want to have a cultural conversation with someone, I'll go on Twitter.
I hear you.
I don't. So Jose says something interesting here. It's always a trade-off. Unfortunately, if you disable everything, you end up with the internet looking like the days of the old dial-up bulletin board versus the hyper palatable internet we're used to. Yeah, but it's not. I think we're going to see more and more innovation around privacy and browser privacy. People are paying attention to it. I think people are paying attention to it. So and people care more about privacy now.
Yeah, and I think your approach is one of the good and the bad things about so much choice selection. Kind of like the last comment that someone said, Twitter's an echo chamber. But the whole internet can be an echo chamber if you choose to selectively follow only a particular community. And that's how people get radicalized because they are like, oh yeah, I connect with this idea, so I will only follow this idea, and it gets reinforced. The approach that I take is I open myself up to a lot, read it, consider it, look at the pros and cons, and then choose whether I want to believe it or not. But at least I have that mix of influences. It's same for TV. If you're always watching Fox News, you only hear that one approach. If you look at 3 or 4 different TV stations or news stations, then you get those different approaches.
No, so we talk, echo chambers is one aspect. You're right. And I think the problem with it is when you're not able to discern properly. So I did a study a few years ago, and we published that study. It was actually in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and the Atlanta Business Constitution. I did something here locally. It never made national, but what we did is I teamed up with a bunch of students from one of the universities here, and we created a bunch of profiles on social media, and we started following specific personalities that at the time I want to call them fact checkers, claimed they were. So from left to liberal to center to right to extreme right. And we wanted to see how our feeds would look and what kind of data we would get. And you're right. You become in an echo chamber. You become more and more radicalized. But part of it is because of algorithms. Like when Tim Cook said algorithms are the mother of all evil a few weeks ago, he wasn't wrong. He was spot on. Yep. Right? We witnessed that firsthand. One of our guys who was, I won't say what side of what he was working on, right? But he literally started believing some of the stuff he was reading because he was on it 12, 14, 16 hours a day. And he goes, well, now this is all starting to make sense. And I'm like, have you discerned this information with any objective point from the other side? And he went, no, I'm not seeing anything from the other side. And then we started countering it in order to give him some information. I mean, there are some really serious stuff that goes on there. So information security. Sorry, this is, I think, Medina again. Hang on. Here we go. Let's get to some of these comments. So information security and privacy, pick one, maybe two. I think you can pick all three.
Yeah.
You can pick all three properly. Use links or links. Eric's got a sense of humor, man. What are good communities?
Maybe I could convince Eric to click on my QR code.
You could, maybe. What are good communities to follow to read up on recent hacks and remediations? The Reddit sub cybersecurity one is really good. There's some really good stuff on there. I also look at Bleeping Computers, some of the Bleeping Computer stuff. I like some of their forum stuff, and then there's some other stuff I follow. What about you, Chris?
I actually use Feedly to aggregate about 200 different websites and kind of post what's happening lately. There's some Reddit forums in there. There's Ars Technica, Bleeping Computer, CISA updates, CISO Online, Dark Reading, FireEye updates. I kind of get a little bit of everywhere. That way I can see what's really happening in the community without trying to filter myself too much.
Love it. So Kevin says VPN providers are increasingly offer Pi-hole blocking as part of the VPN tunnel. Really nice feature as a secondary layer. It doesn't replace using Brave and other tools on the local network, though, because once you're cut over to the VPN, it will not use your local Pi-hole or firewall rules. That is also very true. David says that sounds like a great experiment to do on Facebook. I think it sounds like a great experiment to do, period, not just on Facebook, but everywhere. Are algorithms giving you a balanced feel, or are they, I mean, the lawsuit between Facebook and Apple, we did a Tech Town Square on it, not this Wednesday, the Wednesday beforehand. I did a Tech Town Square. So if you're watching and you're not aware of the Tech Town Square, you can scroll through my feed or go to CyberHub Podcast's YouTube page and you can see it there. Eddie and I talked about the Apple versus Facebook thing. And I really hope that Apple kicks Facebook down on this one. I really hope Apple comes up victorious in this lawsuit. It's going to take years for it to get settled. But in the meantime, they're going to hit Facebook where it hurts in the mobile app, which is, I think, like 80% of their users are on mobile.
Yep.
So LinkedIn user here, I'll find out who that is here in just a moment. Browser privacy, I just posted a video on 2 cookie pop-ups. One was MIT Tech Review, which had to accept the cookie selected, no way to uncheck. The one was First Tech CU with options for comfort, essential, and link to privacy policy. How can an average consumer not get confused?
And that's happening more and more, especially with like GDPR actions where you're requiring consent for tracking. People are getting so overloaded with requests for cookies to track to even access the website. Like more and more new sites, like unless you accept their cookies, you're not going to show you their webpage. And I think that is where the idea of the freedom on the internet starts to erode. Because in the beginning, it was free to you as a consumer because they were able to market your data and sell it, and you didn't know any better. Now that you know better, now you're having to find other ways, and that is to either force you to accept a cookie so that they can sell you that ad, or you don't get access to that site, and then you have to start paying for a membership in order to see it.
Yeah, this was Ashwin who posted this one. And I think that's part of the, I work with the NTSC and we're working on the federal privacy bill. And that's one of those is with the cookies. So a website can't deny you access to it because you won't consent to cookies. So in Europe, that's the same case. You cannot consent and you can go into the site. They're not tracking you. They may limit the site availability, meaning you may only be able to browse specific parts of the website. And not more.
Yep.
But yeah, Jose talks about confirmation bias. Absolutely. A lot of confirmation bias. Kevin goes, who knew that when the media used to say after the president was on TV, we now return to your regularly scheduled programming, that they really meant we were being programmed.
Yep.
Let's see. Matt says, how to keep up the good work and conversations. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. What kind of design is that? You can't scroll or use the page unless you accept their cookies. That's frustrating, especially on websites where they don't make it accessible on the phone. So like you can't find the X, you can't, like you either got to hit agree or nothing at all. There's nothing more frustrating than that. But people, like, we have mobile devices. A lot of us use our mobile devices. Get your website done right.
Yeah. And I mean, to get around that, I would recommend clearing out your cookies and resetting, especially if you're on the Apple side, which one of the comments is going to ask about that very shortly. But reset your advertising ID on a regular basis and delete your cookies. And that will help with the tracking.
Or just use DuckDuckGo, block all your apps, right? So like on my iPhone, every app is blocked for location. They can't get my location. They can't get any sort of information. They don't have access to my microphone, to my camera, to any of that stuff. Like when I go on to use Instagram, I'll go in, I'll allow, the camera and mic for one time. That's it. Yep. Go back, disable it. It's inconvenient, but it's privacy, and you don't like it takes you 3 seconds to do it anyways. It's not like it's a 10-minute process. To do something on my phone, it takes a few seconds. So stop being lazy. Like, I feel like we're so lazy. We've been catered to so much. We want everything to be like room service on vacation.
Yep. And that's because we got it for free. But if I had to choose a side on the ecosystem, I would choose Apple all the way. I've had Android devices in the past, and the problem with them is the fractured ecosystem that you get. Because if you get a Samsung device, they have a fractured version of the iOS operating system that they've tailored to themselves. And if Google comes out with an update and Samsung doesn't want to update that version of Android that you have, you're stuck in the water. Whereas at least with Apple, they're consistently updating their products until they get to about 5-6 years old. And by that point, you probably do need a new phone.
Yeah, I try to switch phones every 18 months or so, pretty much like I think most people, but it's you can't always change your phone because you have a security or a privacy issue. Just doesn't always work. Kevin brings up a really good point here. iOS users, you don't have to wait for Apple to enable the full IDFA block feature. You can go to settings, privacy, and deselect allow apps to request to track, and you take care of that. At David, it's by design. They aren't truly giving us a choice. Yeah, and the problem with it is the people who are supposed to enforce it aren't enforcing the rules anymore, right? Like in the DPOs or any of those people, they're not enforcing any of this stuff. They're just letting it go on
until they get enough complaints, until they feel the bite back in their pocket. They're not going to choose to act, and that's where consumers have to choose to make their choose to hurt them if they're not happy with their choices by driving their traffic elsewhere. Problem is, consumers just get frustrated and they click accept and they get what they wanted anyway.
Yeah. Eric Williams says, if it's free, then you are the product. That is so very true. If it's free, we are the product. And, we used to say that if it's free, it's too good to be true. Right now we have free apps, free social media, and no one has ever stopped for a minute and said, this is too good to be true. How are they making money? How did Facebook all of a sudden become like, what is it? Like they're a $300 billion, $400 billion. What's Facebook's market cap? Does anyone know? Off the top of your head? I don't know. I got to check this right now. I got to check this real quick. I want to know how much we, the product, made Facebook. And Facebook's worth. So Facebook's market cap is $763 billion. So we, the product, meaning the people, like our Constitution clearly says, we made Facebook worth $763 billion. And they have no product. They just have a platform and they collect all your data and they sell it.
Well, they started out as collecting your data, and then they started selling your data, and they realized that they have more success in selling your data than anything else. So the longer you're there, the more they can collect about you.
Let's see here. Kevin has a few things to say. Unfortunately, increasingly, even when you pay, you are still the product. That is also very true. In some cases, even when you pay, you are still the product. LinkedIn user, I think that's Ashwin, says 100% agree. Sadly, if you are paying for a product, you are still the product. Want an example? Dating apps. Yeah, dating apps do so. Dating apps though, they sell your data to restaurants, right? Like they're selling your data to OpenTable and all these places, or flower shops, or they also sell it to Waze. So on your way to the date, like they'll show you like stuff that you can buy along the way. I haven't dated in over a decade, thank God. I've never had to be on any of those dating apps, but I have enough single friends to know that they go, I put in the directions to meet her somewhere, and on the way it showed me every flower shop, and I'm like, cross target, like,
yep.
Cross targeting, man. This stuff is crazy. I mean, cross marketing, cross targeting. They do some really, really insane stuff. I mean, Facebook, $763 billion. Like, that's crazy.
What was the movie on Netflix about that?
Social Dilemma?
Yeah, Social Dilemma. That was a really good movie. And I think if anyone truly watches that and they understand how interconnected everything is, like, they'll delete all social apps right away.
Well, so you got to download. So one thing I would urge everyone to do is go to Facebook or WhatsApp or Twitter and download all your data. And download all your data. Because I think if you download all your data, you'll see all the data they're collecting on you.
Oh, yeah.
And you can get it in JSON. And I recommend, if you're smart, get it in JSON, then start really like analyzing it and breaking it down and data mine yourself. You'll find the changes in yourself doing that. I did that last month, and I'm gonna vlog it on my YouTube channel next month, because I've been running a bunch of JSONs. Like, I'm doing data analytics on my own data, and I got to hide some stuff. I don't want my private life to be out there for the world to see, but I kind of want to share how data mining does work. And I'm sorry, Christopher Perry is one of the LinkedIn users. It's not just one guy. It's also Christopher Perry. I'm sorry, Chris Perry. Please forgive me from the bottom of my heart. Kevin says, stop giving merchants your email when you must give them a burner or one you really don't care about. I always give them johnsmith6969@yahoo.com. Feel free to use it. It's magnificent. They go, but your name's James. And I go, yeah, but I use John Smith. I'm John Smith.
Yeah, the other really good trick, if you do use Gmail and you are the product, if you use your tag plus whatever you're signing up to, you can see how that merchant is selling your email. So if you sign up to, say, Netflix, you use your tag plus Netflix, and someone other than Netflix emails you at that tag, you know that your information has been sold.
Yeah, Jose points out to this, give him a burner email. Social Dilemma is awesome. Let's see. David says, Google lets you download your data too. I believe they do, and I'm working on that right now. It takes them 5 to 6 days to get you your data. Facebook and WhatsApp also give you 3 to 5 more days. They hope that by buying 3 to 5 days to get you your data, that you'll regret deleting them. By the way, it's very strategic. Cable companies used to do that too. Remember, you'd call and cancel and be like, well, we'll cancel the service on your bill cycle. Remember, you have to call us on your billing cycle. When I worked for Verizon 15 years ago, when someone wanted to cancel like a free 30-day feature, they'd have to call us on day 29 to cancel it. We couldn't cancel it the day they got. So you get 30 days free GPS. If you forget to call and cancel, you keep it, and you're still paying for it. And they do the same thing here. It's the same thing. Exercise your GDPR rights with LinkedIn. It's awesome. You can get it in a CSV and it hits you. Very cool. Jose says, too late, James. You're already doxxed. Okay, that is all right. Chris says, you are forgiven. Thank you for your forgiveness. It's very important for a Jew to get forgiveness on the Sabbath. I got to be pure walking into Shabbat tonight. Matt Lee says, if you recall, Facebook was hammered early on for not having revenues as they slowly mined and began selling data. Yes, that is also very, very true, Matt. I have the stat readily available. I'll update it for 2020. 192 billion is the aggregate advertising revenue for Google, Facebook, and data brokers. On Goodbye Privacy, I did an entire episode, one of my most viewed episodes on Goodbye Privacy. That episode has over 500,000 audio downloads. If you haven't heard of my Goodbye Privacy podcast, you should go check it out. I know I'm selfishly promoting, but we're at the end of the show anyway, so but I did a whole episode on data brokers. Whenever I do Goodbye Privacy, every season is on Apple's New and Noteworthy. You can go watch it on YouTube or go look up Goodbye Privacy on your favorite podcast listening platform and look up the data broker episode. You'll be astonished. We have them 2 years ago being at $150 billion industry in total, with no regulation.
Yeah, before Social Dilemma, there was the Cambridge Analytica one,
right?
And when they did the analysis, they talked about how data brokers came into play and how the effect that they have on the economy. It's crazy.
Yeah, I have numbers now for season 3 around data brokers and election mining. So data brokers on election cycles between March and November, when you start advertising more and more for campaigns, their revenue not triples, not quadruples, increases by 27 times their normal revenue. 27 times.
So data brokers is what gives us our credit. And if anyone thinks that we don't have a social credit system in the US,
we do.
They're sadly mistaken, because data brokers make that happen.
It's just not public. You can also use it to benefits managing groups to get great deals. Michelle, Chris says Matrix are from 2018. Yeah, I have some really cool matrix. I source everything on Goodbye Privacy, so you can check that out as well. I don't know who this man is, a genius, but if it's me, thank you. If it's Chris is also thankful. I think, Chris is a genius as well. And someone will check out the podcast. Yes, please do check out the Goodbye Privacy podcast. We're out of time. This was spontaneous, right, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun times.
I was just kind of like, I want to do something today, live, spontaneous, and talk and just network with people on a Friday. And that's a lot of fun for all of those that commented and joined. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for jumping on, man.
Absolutely.
It's always fun to do this stuff with you. This will still be available on LinkedIn. The audio version will be available on the Cyber Hub podcast. And then Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern time, I do the practitioner brief. Chris, let's talk real quick. 221 in 2021. Tell everyone how you took my simple challenge that we met in January, and now you've put us to work for the entire year.
Absolutely. So with COVID hitting, so many people not having jobs, losing jobs, trying to break into cybersecurity, I decided to take your challenge, put it on steroids, and have a target of trying to get 221 people in 2021 hired. It's a community-driven effort. In order for it to be successful, we need both people that need their resume reviewed so that you can go get that job. But we also need, if you're a hiring manager, if you're a recruiter, and you're interested in helping to review those resumes, reach out directly to James or myself, and we'll help you get connected to help make that impact for the community. Community-driven effort, that's the key word.
Yeah, and if you're looking for work, post hashtag 221 in 2021, tag me, tag Chris, tag Renee Small, tag Naomi Buckwalter. We'll share it. We will comment on it for visibility. We'll share some of them. I try to do it once a day. It's very, very difficult, but it's definitely something we want to help everyone out with. Folks,
and do a promotion video. If you have 30 seconds to record yourself, do a little promo video about yourself, that will drive more engagement to your profile than just sharing your resume blindly.
One person got hired the next day from that. She got an opportunity the next day just by doing a video. So 221 in 2021. Chris and I are going to try to do this every single week beyond CISO Thursdays, just kind of jump on and shoot the stuff. And I haven't told Chris about this, but I'm just volunteering him at this point. But I'm going to try and do this at least once a week so you guys can jump on and we can kind of talk about it. But 221 in 2021, guys. Eric, thank you so much. Jenny, thank you as well. And LinkedIn user at the very end says, we also need more robust litigation rights in terms of privacy. Yes, we do. Talk to your congressman or senator, or you can also write your legislatures in your state to start working on it as well. That's it for us here, guys. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your Friday. Shabbat shalom. See ya.